What up, what up, what up? Daniel Augustin here with an instant reaction from Georgia Texas SEC Conference Championship game. Texas was the favorite in this game. And I think maybe a lot of people thought that they had more that they were playing for. First time in this conference, lost the first game, so they're going to be playing, with this mindset of we the real underdogs, which would make them scrappier and make them play at their best. They were preseason favorites, so I think everybody is anticipating that Texas is going to come out of the shadows of their own somewhat moderately excellent play thus far this season. I think everybody's been expecting that. Everybody's been wanting to see that. You look at this game, they had more total yards, more passing yards. Texas had 358 passing yards to Georgia's 136. Texas was not able to run the ball in this game, but they had more first downs. They were better on third down. They were 2 for 2 on fourth down. They had more plays. Ton more penalties, 2 times as many penalties as Georgia did. They did not lose any fumbles, but they did throw 2 interceptions. Time of possession about the same. So for me in particular, when I watch this game and I break it down, what I see is I see a team in Texas that is supremely talented. Roster's more talented than just about everybody else. And I talked about this before. I think that when Texas gets Arch Manning into the lineup and he's the starting quarterback, I think this is going to be a completely different team. They're going to have a completely different identity. They're going to look different, play different, feel different. And I think they then, at that time, will be able to actually be worth the kind of hype that they've been getting. And I don't have anything, it's not like I have an issue with Quinn Ewers or a problem. It's nothing like I don't like him or anything like that. Quinn Ewers is just very much so a wallflower of a football player, and it shows in his play oftentimes. There are throws that he's missing that you need him to hit. His inability to really be passionate, in my opinion, also is partly why I think this Texas team never really has stepped into their full potential. This team is held back by their quarterback. There were a number of throws that Quinn could have made. I mean, let's talk about the interception first of all. He had 2 interceptions. Now, on one of them, I will say that it could have potentially been a different situation where, the receiver bats the ball down, but his receiver couldn't find it. And his receiver ends up finally seeing the ball just as the DB was picking it off. So, on that throw, though, what did happen was Quinn Ewers threw the ball too far on the inside. And what was happening at the beginning of the game is Quinn Ewers was able to throw the ball wherever the hell he wanted because I think Georgia was trying to lock down these receivers, and they played more on top of these receivers. And back shoulders were wide open. But on that play in particular, Georgia's defensive back was trailing. I don't know if it's because he was beat or it's because he had help over the top that he was able and allowed to play from underneath, but it essentially took that throw away from Quinn Ewers, and that was the productivity that Texas was seeing at first. They had the deep out, the deep hitch, and they had the slant route going, and they had the cross route going. Those routes were working to perfection for Texas. But on that play in particular, they took them away. Look at any single one of the plays where Texas actually had success in the passing game, except for the slant route that went for a touchdown. On any of those plays, those deep passes that Quinn Ewers did connect on, there was a Georgia defender right there, stride for stride, with the wide receiver. This is not a game at all where Texas was just so supremely talented that they were just running away from Georgia defenders. Also, fourth quarter. Now, I do think that you deserve a margin of error. Everybody needs a margin of error. You don't actually get to just have one. Your defense and your special teams sometimes is going to be the reason why you get a margin of error. Quinn Ewers had a margin of error in this game, and it was honestly, it was something that he was blessed. Quinn Ewers is lucky that his defense was able to keep Georgia at such a pedestrian-like kind of ball game. Gunner Stockton came into this game, and yes, he's 12 for 16, 75%, but he has an interception. No touchdowns. Carson Beck, 7 of 13, 56 yards, no touchdowns. And on his last drive, he threw 2 interceptions that got taken away because of penalties. So Texas, their defense is set up to help them win these games, but I don't think Quinn Ewers is a winning quarterback. I think he's a quarterback that plays well as things go well, but he's not making game-winning plays. On the touchdown that he does have, it was a slant route that his wide receiver made a ton of plays on, made somebody miss, and took it to the end zone. Sometimes stats like that can make your quarterback look a lot better. But your quarterback is going to show you who they are when those throws matter most. Because when they matter most, they end up making that throw. In this game in particular, in the fourth quarter, Quinn Ewers had an opportunity to hit Ryan Wingo for a touchdown on that pass interference call. Fourth quarter, just a few minutes left, and he misses the throw badly, terribly underthrown. The only reason why it was a pass interference is because it was terribly underthrown. And yes, you're going to take the penalty call. You're going to take that. You're going to accept that. But why not just throw him a good pass? This is the same wide receiver that you're throwing the ball to in practice every single week. So you know him, you know his speed. You should be able to gauge his speed and his ability better than anybody else on the football field. Even people who are watching him week in and week out or watching his tape and studying him, you're going to know who he is. But Quinn Ewers missed that throw terribly. I mean, he wasn't trying to throw a back shoulder fade. I don't care. I don't want anybody sitting here to think that that's what will happen. He threw a bad ball well behind him. Ryan Wingo had the separation. He was leaving his man in the dust and ultimately didn't get a chance to even use the separation that he gained because of where Quinn Ewers threw the ball. Now, let's say Quinn Ewers throws that ball to the over the shoulder of Ryan Wingo, left pylon, that back line of the goal line. It's a touchdown potentially. Now it's a matter of whether or not Ryan Wingo catches this ball or not. But he didn't even get a chance. He didn't even get a chance, y'all. And now they did get that first down because of the penalty call. But then afterwards, Quinn Ewers, instead of throwing the ball away or, just pitching it to one of his backs that was nearby, he takes a sack, a bad sack. Puts Texas in a situation where they now are in, say, 2nd and 17. And then they don't get any yards on 2nd and 17. Now it's 3rd and 17. And Texas in this game faced down and distance, unfavorable down and distance scenarios that you just can't win with. They had 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20, at least 4 times. They had a deep down and distance kind. You cannot win like that. You cannot win like that. You need every single one of these possessions to churn out some points. And you're not getting points because not to mention, they missed 2 field goals in this game. Makeable field goals. They missed 2 field goals. This game ends up being closer than it should be, but Texas comes up short quite often. Beside the fact that they missed those throws that I was just talking about, then they missed 2 more throws in the first overtime going to the end zone. Bad balls. Bad balls. Bad throws. So with Quinn Ewers, and the one he threw to, I think it was 0 or to number 2 for that slot fade, it's not that it's such a bad ball because, the defense had a chance to pick it off, but it's a bad ball because often his wide receiver isn't getting the chance to make the play on the ball. That's what you need to have happen in these games. Quinn Ewers got to give his receivers a chance. I think that when they get a chance to get Arch Manning in there, their identity is going to change completely. They'll have more mobility in the pocket, more escapability in the pocket. It'll now be a matter of whether or not Arch knows when to stay in the pocket and when he should go. That then can become something that potentially is a strength or a weakness of his. But I do think that his energy, his moxie, will suit the roster and the play calling a lot better than Quinn Ewers. When it comes down to my comps that I've been working on, I see Quinn Ewers. I wrote it down here, and I'm going to give the name that I wrote beforehand. But after watching him play this game, I feel like I might need to change it. I wrote in particular the first time, I'm not going to change it actually, but I'll give both of the names. I had here for his comp, I had Tony Romo, and I was getting ready to add Chad Pennington. Chad Pennington. Quinn has incredible touch. He plays the game at his pace and and that is a beautiful thing to see. It looks as though he's quite poised. But there's a difference between being poised, a difference between being a vocal leader, a difference between being the guy who doesn't do all the talking, but everything that needs to be said shows in your play. Quinn Ewers' game is constantly lacking passion. It's lacking that extra bit of oomph, those extra bit of yards that make it a perfect throw. Oftentimes, one of the main things that these college quarterbacks struggle with when they go to the NFL is they are waiting to see the separation between the wide receiver and the DB. And then once they've seen the separation, they wait a second to kind of confirm, is my guy wide open? Okay, cool, let me throw it. Now with just those 2 seconds that you took, somebody has just broken ground on the little bit of space that you had, and now you have an interception or you have a pass breakup where you could have had a first down or a touchdown. That's what a lot of rookies tend to struggle with the most. And I think the only way you can kind of see that you're dealing with a rookie who isn't caught up in needing to see so much before they throw it is when you have a rookie who understands the passing game isn't a matter of everything that you see in the moment. It's often things that you see when you're watching film and pre-snap. Because once the moment has started, there is no more sitting and waiting and checking and holding the ball. And so where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Texas is going to be in, say, the 5th ranked, 6th, 7th ranked position. They'll probably host a home game, which will probably be good for them. Georgia is going to get that first round bye, and they needed it. They are hurting. Okay, and I think a lot of people are going to be in trouble now that Georgia is getting this bye because a lot more of their players are going to get healthy. I think they're going to get the time that they need so that they can heal. Don't know what's going on with Carson Beck just yet, but he's going to have an extra week to potentially do what he needs to do, see who he needs to see, and, go from there. A lot of people are acting like that first round bye isn't one of the most important things. The availability that you get to work on with your players, I think, is much bigger than playing a team that you think isn't the best team, because so many of these teams have lost to teams that nobody thinks is the best team. Okay, we saw Alabama lose to Vanderbilt, but then y'all put Alabama back into this playoff. I'm telling y'all that first round bye is a lot more important than people are giving it any credit for. These guys need that week to rest. Who cares if they leave? Who cares if after the bye they end up playing against Tennessee? Who cares? Tennessee has laid some eggs. All right. So Georgia takes this dub. Big win for Georgia. Huge win. I actually think this Georgia team is getting, I don't want to say getting better because they didn't actually play that well on offense. They did find a way to run the ball today. That's for damn sure. And I've been saying all season that I think this needs to be a running team. Run the ball first. I think if this is how they play, if they dominate in the run game, they will win games regardless of what they do in the past. They didn't even throw any interceptions in this game, and they still end up getting this W. So I say like this. This Georgia team, in my opinion, is one of the scariest teams in the entire college football playoffs right now. Nobody don't want to see this Georgia team right now. Okay, I know they struggle with Georgia Tech. I know they struggled with a lot of teams. They have struggled with a lot of teams, but when they get into these tussles, they tend to win. So, Georgia, big win. Congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs getting, if I'm not mistaken, their 3rd SEC championship in the past 4 years. Huge. Texas, they I don't know. I think Sarkisian might end up losing to Kirby Smart a few times. This looks like it's going to become the new rivalry. This looks like it's going to be that rivalry that college football didn't know that it needed. The Nick Saban tree rivalry. Nick Saban is like the head of the Game of Thrones of all college football, and these people are people from his lineage, and they end up making some of these storylines a lot more interesting. So we're looking at a Georgia Bulldogs team that has stumbled their way to being SEC champions, now have a first round bye, and can't nobody say they didn't earn it. This is a dangerous team, man. I wouldn't want to see this team. I'm just keeping it real. I know they seem very beatable, but we also see them look not very beatable. So them at their best, oh man. Them at their best, they're beating teams pretty badly. Them at their worst, they're coming out alive, and they're constantly getting the win, despite the fact that they sometimes just aren't putting out the best performances. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap. I'm watching the Oregon and Penn State game, and Clemson and SMU. Clemson just scored another touchdown. Clemson's looking pretty good out there right now. So is Oregon. So we're going to have some havoc with this college football playoff. It won't look anything like what it looked like before, and that is exciting. So let's just get ready for that. If you got to this part of the video, I appreciate you watching. I would appreciate it even more, though, if you were so kind that you just decided, I'm going to go on there and mess around and subscribe too. I'd appreciate it. There you go. I see you pressing that button. Come on, man. Come on, man. Let's get it. Peace.